So picture this. One of the world's leading AI companies just drew a line in the sand, and they drew it right in front of the Pentagon. They're publicly defying the U.S. military over how their AI can be used in a war. Now, this isn't just some boring contract dispute. Nope. This is a huge standoff about ethics, national security, and really the future of how wars are going to be fought. Let's break down what in the world is going on here. And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? When you have a technology that is so powerful, it could literally change warfare as we know it. Who gets the final say? Is it the government that needs it to defend the country? Or is it the private company that actually built the thing? That's the core question we're diving into today. And here are our two players squaring off. In one corner, you've got Anthropic. Their whole philosophy is safety first, and they're insisting that there have to be ethical guardrails. In the other corner, you have the Pentagon, and they are demanding full, unrestricted access for, quote, any lawful purpose. You can already see these two positions are miles apart. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll get into the clash itself, what sparked it. Then, we're going to look at what each side really wants. After that, we'll zoom out a bit to see how this fits into a bigger pattern. And finally, we'll talk about the fallout and what this all means for the future of AI. All right, let's start at the beginning. What actually happened? What was the trigger that set off this very public showdown between a Silicon Valley heavyweight and the US military? So the core of it is this. The Pentagon basically told Anthropic, hey, we need you to remove the safety restrictions you've built into your AI model, Claude, so we can use it. And Anthropic said, no. Well, the Pentagon did not like that. They went public and they labeled the company a supply chain risk to national security. Ouch. And let's be super clear here. This was a massive decision for Anthropic. We're not talking about small change. By taking the stand, the company basically walked away from a potential military deal that was worth an estimated $200 million. That is a very loud and very expensive way to choose principles over profit. So what are these principles that Anthropic was willing to give up a $200 million deal for? Let's dig into their side of the story. You know, this quote from Anthropic's CEO, Dario Amodei, is really telling. He's not framing this as a business issue or even a tech issue. He's arguing that this is about defending core democratic values. That takes the debate to a whole other level. So what exactly are these sacred guardrails? Well, Anthropic laid out two bright red lines, and for them, these are totally non-negotiable. First, they said their AI cannot be used for mass surveillance of Americans at home, period. And second, it can't be used in a fully autonomous weapon that kills without a human being giving the final okay. But here's a really important piece of nuance. Anthropic wasn't just giving the military the cold shoulder. They actually said, look, our strong preference is to continue working with you. We just need these two safeguards to stay put. So they were trying to find a middle ground, a responsible partnership, not just a flat-out rejection. Okay, let's flip the coin. How did the Pentagon see all this? Well, from their perspective, this wasn't about ethics. It was about absolute necessity for national security. And the Pentagon's position is just as direct, just as powerful. The most important word in their whole statement is lawful. From where they're sitting, if an action is legal under U.S. law, then a private tech company shouldn't have the power to veto it. And this right here, this is their whole argument in a nutshell. The Pentagon believes that the existing laws, the rules of engagement, military regulations, those are the only safeguards that should matter. They're worried that if private companies start adding their own extra rules, it could seriously tie their hands on a crisis. So how did the Pentagon react? Well, they didn't pull any punches. They went on the offensive. They officially labeled Anthropic a security risk. They even threatened to use something called the Defense Production Act, which is a crazy Cold War-era law that can literally force companies to work for the government. They even got personal, with reports of an official accusing the CEO of having a God complex. Now, it's important to understand that this fight didn't just pop up out of nowhere. This is really just the latest and maybe loudest chapter in a long, tense story between Silicon Valley's kind of idealistic culture and the hard-nosed realities of the military. I mean, just look at this timeline. We've seen this movie before. Back in 2018, there was a huge employee protest at Google over something called Project Maven, and Google ended up backing out of the contract. Later that same year, they pulled out of the massive $10 billion JIDI contract, again because of their own internal ethics code. The Anthropic standoff is just a new, more direct escalation of this fight that's been brewing for years.
So, what happens when a fight that should be in a boardroom spills out into the public square? Let's take a look at the immediate fallout and what it might mean for the future.
Well, it got political, and it got political fast. Former President Trump jumped on social media, basically framing Anthropic's stance not as an ethical one, but as a partisan, woke one. And he called for government agencies to just drop their tech. And the divide wasn't just in Washington. It ripped right through Silicon Valley. Elon Musk, whose own company had already agreed to the Pentagon's terms, threw this bomb, basically saying Anthropic hates Western civilization. He turned it into a full-blown culture war. You could literally see the two teams forming. On one side, you had Team Anthropic. Insiders at rival companies like Google and OpenAI, plus a lot of AI ethicists, were all backing them. And on the other side, Team Pentagon, you had defense tech companies like Undrill and big names like Elon Musk and investor Keith Rabois all siding with the government. But then, just when you think you've got it all figured out, there was a fascinating plot twist. After all the drama, all the accusations, a major competitor, OpenAI, quietly signed its own deal with the Pentagon. And here's the kicker. Their deal included the exact same two red lines that Anthropic had been fighting for all along. Kind of makes you wonder if Anthropic's position was so radical after all, right? Which brings us right back to that huge fundamental question. Who is in charge here? Should the rules for this powerful technology be set by private companies with their own ethical codes, or should they be set by the government with its laws and authority? This whole standoff has dragged that question right out into the spotlight. In the end, the whole Anthropic-Pentagon clash really boils down to this timeless conflict, the choice between raw power and guiding principle. There's no easy answer here, and as AI gets more and more woven into our lives and into our national defense, well, this debate is really only just getting started.